do you know the incredible and honestly kind of wild true story behind one of the absolute most polarizing figures in South Asian politics today? We're talking about Maryam Nawaz Sharif. Today, we're unpacking her rapid rise, the intense legal controversies, and some literally history-making milestones. So let's just dive right into 5 amazing facts you absolutely need to know.
So the big question is, do you actually know these 5 key facts about her? We're going to cover the whole shebang, from her historic electoral wins and those massive legal battles you've probably seen in the headlines, all the way to the hard data behind her first 100 days in office. Let's get into it.
Fact number 1, the historic milestone. 220. That is the exact number of votes Maryam Nawaz secured in the Provincial Assembly earlier this year. And you know, that wasn't just any vote count. That was the deciding number that elevated her to a massively consequential seat of power. Because those 220 votes, they made absolute history. On February 26, 2024, she was officially sworn in as the 19th Chief Minister of Punjab. But wait, here's the real weight of that moment. She became the very first woman to ever hold a Chief Minister position in Pakistan's entire history. I mean, regardless of where you stand politically, you gotta admit, shattering a glass ceiling like that in a province as critical as Punjab, that is a major defining moment.
All right, moving on to fact 2, background and education. Now, you might not know this, but for a really long time, she was actually this quiet, behind-the-scenes figure. Starting way back in 1997, she was entirely focused on philanthropy, mostly managing the Sharif Trust and Medical City. It actually wasn't until 2011 that she asked her father for permission to enter politics, and once she did, she stepped right into the limelight, managing the 2013 election campaigns and eventually taking charge of the Prime Minister's youth program. But okay, her educational journey has definitely been a subject of intense public scrutiny. She originally enrolled in medical college back in the 80s, but ended up leaving to get married. Then years later, she claimed a master's degree, and by 2012, the media was reporting she was actually pursuing a PhD. However, cut to 2014, and those credentials were facing some very serious legal challenges in the High Court.
And that brings us to this highly specific and honestly pretty surprising detail from the source documents. So during that 2014 High Court challenge, the Deputy Attorney General was presenting her academic credentials. But when pressed by the court, he actually withdrew them. He reportedly admitted that the details were, get this, pulled straight from Wikipedia. Yeah, Wikipedia. And this immense public pressure, it ultimately led to her resigning from the youth program entirely.
Okay, let's jump into fact number 3, political journey and controversies.
Let's just map this out chronologically, because it's a lot. Following her 2012 debut, her political trajectory got completely derailed by the 2016 Panama Papers leak, which, as you probably remember, tied her family to offshore properties. By 2018, she and her father were convicted in the Avonfield corruption reference, which actually resulted in a 7-year prison sentence for Maryam. But the timeline doesn't stop there. While her father was in self-imposed exile, she was made vice president of her party, the PML-N, in 2019. And then, in this dramatic legal turnaround, she was fully acquitted of the corruption charges in 2022, which really paved the way for her current role.
What's truly fascinating to me here is the complete 180-degree transformation of her political persona. I mean, when her father was disqualified, she didn't just retreat into the shadows. Instead, she morphed from that quiet manager we talked about into an incredibly aggressive, anti-establishment figurehead, leading these massive countrywide rallies. She fiercely criticized the opposing PTI government and even took on the military and judicial establishment, accusing them of orchestrating her father's ouster.
However, despite her obvious success in rallying the crowds, her actual parliamentary and administrative experience was, well, virtually non-existent when she became chief minister. So to bridge that gap, veteran party figures, specifically former federal ministers Maryam Aurangzeb and Pervez Rashid, were transferred directly to the Punjab government. Their whole role was basically to provide immediate guidance and help her navigate the sheer complexity of running a provincial administration.
Which brings us right to fact 4. First, 100 Days projects.
According to the Thursday Times, her new administration fast-tracked a massive array of public welfare projects. We're talking, within her first 100 days, she laid the groundwork for the Nawaz Sharif IT City, launched free medicine delivery, deployed the Never Again app for women's safety, kicked off the CM Pink Games, and even revived free public Wi-Fi across the whole province. And then there's this number, 32. This represents a highly targeted healthcare intervention. Recognizing the severe disparities in rural Punjab, her government rapidly deployed 32 field hospitals across the province in literally just her first 6 weeks in office.
And listen, these aren't just empty tents. According to Dawn News, these 32 units, which are made up of 21 mobile healthcare units and 11 small diagnostic hospitals, were actually built by converting old shipping containers. It's pretty clever. They are fully equipped with ultrasound rooms, pharmacies, and even labs. The data actually projects that these units will provide vital medical services to roughly 1.5 million marginalized rural patients every single year. To put that in perspective, that is a huge chunk of the population getting direct access to care.
Meanwhile, shifting gears to urban healthcare, we have an even more massive figure, 4 million. That is the estimated number of citizens expected to benefit from 200 newly rolled out clinics on wheels. These are specifically designed to bring basic medical facilities directly to dense, underserved neighborhoods in the cities.
Another super significant initiative in those first 100 days was modernizing law enforcement specifically for women. The sources detail her visit to a newly established virtual women police station. And what's cool here is that these digital hubs are staffed not just by standard officers, but by specially trained IT graduates. The stated goal is to ensure that women's complaints are handled promptly, effectively, and, crucially, with the required level of empathy and professionalism.
And finally, that leads us to fact number 5, her impact on women's leadership.
Her leadership has accomplished to merge gender, politics, and power in a society that was dominated by male superiority. That quote, it comes directly from the Scientific Journal of Pakistan Studies. Academic researchers analyzing her profile note that, honestly, regardless of the controversy surrounding her, her very presence and ascension are fundamentally reshaping the political landscape. She has navigated a deeply patriarchal and masculine political domain, and in doing so, she's merged gender and power in a way we've rarely seen in the region's history.
These academic findings really prove that her dynamic personality has rippled outwards. By leading from the front during some of her party's absolute darkest days, she sparked a much wider discourse on women's political activism across South Asia. It proves that female leadership can operate at the absolute highest levels of active governance. So she isn't just a symbol. Researchers argue she's actively out there influencing public opinion in shaping policy.
Which leaves us with one pivotal question to wrap things up. We've seen the historic firsts, the intense controversies, the rapid policy rollouts, and her undeniable impact on gender dynamics. But, her story is still actively being written, and every single move she makes right now sets a totally new precedent. So, based on the data we've explored today, how do you think her leadership will ultimately shape Pakistan's political future? Let us know what you think, and I'll see you in the next explainer.